Hello and good morning, or maybe good afternoon, wherever you are based in this world. A warm welcome from my side. I'm Svea Becker and I'm part of the SAP Community team. And today with me, I have a great speaker, which I know for a very long time already. This is Volker Zirkel, and together with him, we have Markus Schwarz. He will support him on questions. And Volker and Markus are from SAP, of course. And they are both chief product owners in the cloud and lifecycle management area, whereas Volker is responsible for software logistics for digital core, which consists of system provisioning, change and maintenance tooling for all SAP NetWeaver-based products, including SAP S/4HANA system conversion. And Markus will support today with some question and answers later on. And he's in the same area as I mentioned and has also a long history with SAP and is especially in cloud native development active here. Welcome, Volker, and welcome, Markus. I'm really happy that you both are here with me. And yeah, I would like to hand over to you for your presentation, and I will put my video off not to be distractive. And I think after the presentation, we will cover the questions, and I will give some instructions here in the chat for the attendees that you can ask and submit your questions. Here we go, Volker.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Svea. Yeah, long time, but great to have you moderating this call for us. And yeah, welcome also to Markus, of course, who's also on the call. And yeah, it's a great pleasure to talk a little bit on software logistics solutions, especially in this hybrid world we are currently evolving into. In more or less every customer actually I've seen in the last days and months. Yeah. So let's get started. This is a whole series actually of calls. So I'll just kick it off together with Markus here. And my colleague Priti Dingra, she's wrote a nice blog on the other parts of the series. So most of the topics we will be striving today will be have then in more details also covered in detailed sessions. So if we were not able to answer all the questions today, there's going to be a deep dive session on most of the topics we will explain you today. So fasten your seatbelts, we're going to give you a rough run through software logistics in the hybrid world. And as always, there's this disclaimer. So I guess you give me a smile when you've read through it. Okay, I think everybody's smiling now. Thanks a lot. So what are we going to cover in the call?
We can't see your presentation yet, Volker.
You can't?
Yeah, but okay. I smiled when you did.
You smiled, that is good, that is good. Let me share the screen again. That should work. And yeah, it's tricky.
It works now.
So it should come up, right?
Yes,
so,
this is great.
So talking about software logistics in general, and then talking about planning and execution tooling around that. What is the maintenance planner? I think that is a cloud service everybody is familiar with by now, but it looks very different, I can promise you. Our software logistics tool set, I guess everybody who worked already on SAP systems has seen that before. And then everything in this SAP world today starts with S/4HANA, of course. So it's very important for customers to get there. And we're talking about just a little bit about it. And I want to focus on some highlights there with respect to downtime optimized conversion, and also what is changing in terms of maintenance on S/4HANA as a product. And I also like to give you a glimpse on the latest release of the downtime optimization service. Very cool new stuff just released, hot off the press. Yeah, so very good. And then when you get to S/4HANA, it's of course we're talking about a hybrid world. So you want to attach one or the other SAP line of business solution or some application you have been developing on cloud platform. And we're talking about the cloud integration automation service, how we make this a little bit easier for you, or way easier, I hope. And then last but not least, you need to operate the solution. So we also like to give you a glimpse on how to do this, focusing here on the transport part of DevOps. And one nice gimmick, and I think you saw it before because I checked out the registrations, the Git-enabled CTS for ABAP seems to be drawing a lot of attention. So I just focus really quick on this. I said there's going to be a deep dive. And then we have a nice presentation that I recorded together with my colleague Harald Stevens on the transport management and the charm integration. So I hope we'll be able to run this also as a video real quick, so you see how advanced you can already work with transport management in the cloud and in a hybrid scenario. Okay, and as always, shoot your questions in the chat. And we also plan for some questions and answers at the end. I hope this is working out. And yeah, I will get started. Now, talking about software logistics, what is it all about? Not everybody is really familiar with this term. And I think it's much related to state changes of a system. And that's why we came up also with this diagram here, change management of SAP solutions. So you see, I'll maybe move this over. You see where it all starts with browsing and planning the solution. That is the maintenance planner I've been mentioning. And then you get to a system installed. And with this installed system, you have to do different things, right? So you normally, at least you will maintain it. So meaning patching or updating, or you copy it. Very familiar, of course, for the ABAP basis administrators that create copies on daily basis, I would say. And then, of course, the most beloved action is the upgrade, because it's at least in the on-premise world, causing a lot of issues most of the time. Yeah, so that is a more intense project normally. And then in the hybrid world, of course, very important to extend and integrate. So add cloud solutions to it would be the typical use case here. And while we're talking about S/4HANA, most of the customers also need to run through a system conversion to get to this S/4HANA state, as I said. And last but not least, all of those actions are, of course, closely monitored. So, you know, components like the SAP host agent and other components that allow DevOps paradigms for those hybrid landscapes. So this is what we mean when we talk about software logistics in general. Now, the first tool that everybody is using is the maintenance planner. You're probably familiar with it. We use it normally in the case of planning systems or planning updates of systems or planning S/4HANA, either installations or migrations or conversions to S/4HANA. So that is the more regular use case. You have been in touch probably with the maintenance planner before. Now we are extending this also for those hybrid use cases. So we continue, of course, to have those on-premise capabilities I was just mentioning. But then we are also supporting those hybrid use cases. And you will see it in a second how this will look like, for instance, how you model a landscape within the maintenance planner to visualize the dependencies, protocols, and so forth a little bit better. That is what we call hybrid landscape visualization. There's also a feature, Preeti will talk then in her session more deeply on the product analytics. So you will see, for instance, whether there are products in your landscape that may run out of maintenance room where you have to plan action and to tackle this. And this is what I like a lot. Here, with respect to the maintenance planner, we just recently released a new version out of it. So it looks a little bit different. And I think it's much more intuitive now in terms of navigation. And let's quickly jump into it. So here I am. I hope you are still able to see my screen. This is a new UI for the maintenance planner. Make it a little bit smaller, maybe. Yeah, and then you see here in the typical executions that you are doing on the on-premise, like exploring the system, planning maintenance for that, executing a plan. These kind of things are, of course, still part of it. But what is new, for instance, is this hybrid landscape visualization. So let me click on it. And here you see, of course, you will probably not have that many landscapes modeled, but I think I would just show you a demo how it looks like here. You're able to model your particular landscape and visualize a little bit better how the components really play together. You see here a very typical use case that is consisting of an on-premise S/4HANA system and an on-premise ERP system. So you see also they are connected. In this case here, it's probably wrongly classified as an HTTP connection. So most likely that will be RFC. And that point in time, but that's not so important. It's more important to understand how you model it, right? You see what kind of systems are here leading. The product versions leading here is S/4HANA 1610, for instance, whereas the ERP system is still on an older release, could be an HR system or Fin system. And what is new now, you extend this landscape with your SuccessFactors tenant, for instance. So here's your SuccessFactors productive employee central instance, for instance, that is connected via HTTP towards your S/4HANA system. And this kind of a scenario we'll use as a demonstration also throughout this session to see how the hybrid landscape is evolving. And you see here, for instance, one specialty that the SuccessFactors test tenant you have here is connected here to both to your development as well as your quality assurance landscape. Not very typical, but could of course be the case. And then there's a lot more options how to model these things. But I think with this, you as a system administrator are much better equipped with keeping track on your hybrid landscape, visualize it and plan action exactly from here as a central cockpit. So maintenance planner is really the start for all the stuff. And I will not save everything, and as said, make yourself familiar with the new UI. I think it looks much nicer, and I will of course come back to the maintenance planner throughout the session. Let me jump back to the slides. We do the same thing. So we should now be back on the maintenance planner side. I've quickly showed it. There's also an SAP Newt available as always, and also a video we will share here as part of the presentation where you can make yourself more familiar with all the other new features, but it's really worthwhile trying it out. The second thing I was mentioning in the beginning was the software logistics toolset. Here on the one pager, just quickly, yeah, it's one place, one stop where you have all software logistics tools that will in the end do the action on your system, be it installation, software provisioning, so I mentioned it in the beginning, or updating. That's why the software update manager is also part of it. And we actually release this in a bundle. So it currently releases as SPS 30 here, and the different tools may have, of course, different version because they're tucked in a different way, but in the end, the whole bundle is released. It's always going to be downward compatible and product independent. For the ones who have been a longer history with SAP, they know that was not the case all the time. This was just since we switched to the software logistics toolset. So we can include all the enhancements on a regular basis and also make other products benefit from that. So this is our shipment channel for all the tools that we are using in the system. And a lot of those tools might be really familiar with looking at spam saint transactions, for instance, but also, as said, the software update manager, which is a regular tool that you use not only for updating your system, but this also includes the conversion functionality I'm going to talk about in a second. Good. I said it in the beginning, everything starts with S/4HANA. So I know a lot of customers are already there, and we have quite a lot of live customers already on SAP S/4HANA, but I know on the other hand, it's not an easy transition project. So there's also customers still on this journey, and that's why we are still continuing, of course, to optimize also the way how to get there. Now, what are the typical transition options on your way to get to S/4HANA? Probably most of you have seen this already. We offer, as always, multiple options to get to a target. That is very familiar with any SAP scenario, I guess. So I will briefly cover only the system conversion part. So that means you're really converting an existing ERP system in place and convert it into an S/4HANA system in the on-premise use case. So that's the most typical transaction we see in this world, how to evolve to S/4HANA. But of course, there's other options we will not in depth reflect here. So there is this scenario where you really get to a greenfield implementation. You start from scratch, like in any other ERP implementation project, and you benefit, of course, from what you have. You can take over parts of your ERP system into this new world. You can also go directly to S/4HANA Cloud, very important. Yeah, so you can migrate certain data parts and then also go into the cloud directly if you want to do this. So that is the new implementation part of it. And then there's also some mixtures between conversions and new implementations, which we call selective data transition. There's also some fine granular differences maybe, but in general, what is similar is that you consolidate, for instance, data from multiple ERP systems, or you just take a certain set of data out of an existing system and move this into a new shell, for instance, where you have an empty S/4HANA and you only take over certain selected data. Yeah? You either combine or take over. So there's flavors out of that. But as I said, those are not the most frequently used ones. The most frequent use case is that you have a pretty much well-maintained ERP system, and that contains all your data, and you want to keep all those processes running, and later after the conversion, adapt to those new features of S/4HANA at your own speed. So that's why most of the customers go into this way. Now, how does this look like? There is, with the Software Update Manager, a procedure available, what we call system conversion. So it's a one-step procedure. That's the second bullet point here from ERP 6.0. Please note, you have to be on Unicode. You have to be on an ABAP single stack. Nevertheless, you can be on any DB that is supported in ERP 6.0. So that's good. And you can run this conversion and you get it completely in place, meaning we really convert also the application server that you are using at the moment, yeah, and move only the data from the existing database towards a HANA database, and we create all the new software functionality. We transfer the data model. Your data is going to be transferred into this via this realization here, via the Software Update Manager. In order to make this work, of course, you have to go to quite a lot of prerequisite steps as such in kind of a project. So you check the system requirements, whether you are really there, as mentioned, Unicode, single stack, but also a lot more. You will find them. And you go to the maintenance plan, you plan this transaction. I will show you in a second where you do this. So this is probably the more easy part, and we will check then also for third-party add-ons in the system, for instance, that might still need a new version. Things like this are going to be checked here in the maintenance planner. And then there's also functionality which you will carry out in your ERP system directly. So as part of your system, we will install so-called simplification item checks via a package. And these simplification item checks will scan your particular business functionality that you or your customers are using in your system, whether they are still working as such in the S/4HANA converted system later on, or if there are certain things that you need to do upfront in order to make sure every data gets preserved throughout this process. So that is more the business part that is relevant, and that is where basis administrators usually reach out to the application folks, and you work together in resolving any kind of finding and to prepare the migration or the conversion to S/4HANA. And of course, as the data model is changing, there's also some adaptations you need to do to your custom code that is part of your system. So there's also a lot of tooling available around that. And parts of it can be done already upfront. Parts can be done only after you converted the system. But of course, if you have a multiple step landscape, so you will have one or the other development system already migrated to the new code, and you adapt the code, and you will be able to add those kind of code adaptations then to later on to the productive conversion. So you have everything running right away. So it's quite nice. As I said, a lot of customers use it because innovations can be used flexibly after the conversion, and everything will continue to run as it used to be before, at least if you went properly through the simplification item checks. And we will also check and verify that there's nothing that could be going wrong potentially. Otherwise, the Software Update Manager will prevent this execution. So you need to really be careful, but we also support you on this. And of course, there's a lot of tooling available. I will not talk in all details. The only thing is what is worth mentioning is the SAP readiness check. With the readiness check, you have a lot of those checks I was mentioning combined under one umbrella, where you get an overview on how much effort your conversion project is going to be. Now, what I want to focus on is not so much on the application specifics and the readiness check parts. I want to focus on the downtime optimized conversion, because the most frequently asked question in that kind of project is how long it's going to take. And if you see what the software update manager is doing, there's a lot of uptime processing, and then you will stop the system. And then there's what you see as a technical downtime here, which is familiar for most of you have ever executed any kind of update project, because it's going to be very similar. But there's now this new migration phase where we transfer data into the new S/4HANA data model. That's the one thing. And if you're familiar with the conversion, after the system conversion, which is triggered by the software update manager, there's still some post activities to be done. And you will also transfer your financial and material ledger data into the new data model that has been brought via the software update manager. So this, if you're familiar with the material document and the accounting documents tables, ACDoc A, MATDoc, those are the tables that will be filled partly via this conversion, but mostly via steps that have been or are to be executed in the SPRO later on. So this still counts to downtime. And hence you add the software update manager technical downtime, you add the conversion of the Fin documents. So it's going to take a little bit. So it's a little bit different if you compare it to a regular system maintenance. And therefore, of course, the demand was how to combine this. And this is what is available now as part of a downtime optimized conversion, where we try to force now these kind of things into the uptime processing. And by this are substantially able to reduce downtime. You will see also a little bit later on possible effects that this may have. So much about the downtime optimized conversion. Who is normally interested in this kind of downtime optimized conversion? Well, let's say if you are a customer with smaller databases, we put it here on 5 terabyte, you're probably good to finish the conversion in one weekend via the standard conversion processes. But if it gets greater into this range of 6 to 20 terabytes and maybe more of a 1 billion finance records, of course, this has a major impact as well. It's not only the database size, it's also, of course, which tables are to be converted. So if everything is in tables that we do not touch with the new data model, probably not a problem. But of course, with a lot of finance records, that is something we need to hand over into this new ACDoc A table. And therefore, it's relevant also what kind of data you have, not how much data you have. But for these kind of customers here, we clearly see the downtime optimized conversion bringing a lot of benefit. It's available upon request. We have also a detailed session on this as part of this call series. And yeah, reach out to us if you feel you need to have that. But of course, there's also limits for this. I want to be quite frank here, of course. If you are really running an extraordinary kind of database size with more than 20 terabytes, most likely you will not be good also with the downtimes we will reach here with the downtime optimized conversion. So I think most of the customers have the requirement to fit this into one maintenance weekend. And therefore, we would have probably to apply more sophisticated conversion algorithms, more focused on a particular customer-specific conversion, what we call it at times. And this is available via this service from consulting, from SAP Consulting. Good. But here, nice example, which we can use here to show how downtime optimized could work, where we have been able to convert an ECC system 6.0 EHP0, so quite an old system with all languages in there. It used to run on an Oracle database with 17.7 terabyte, and with downtime optimized conversion, we were really able to move it into those 24 hours of technical downtime, including the Fin conversion, right? So that is something what is forgotten at times. And what you also see nicely is some benefits of the HANA database underlying with a 5 terabyte. It's really way more compressed, and yeah, there's a goodie of HANA, of course, as a database. Good. So talking about the conversion downtime optimization, there's, as I said, there's a lot of optimization approaches, and we always make it complicated. So I quickly want to also give you a heads up on what is available there, that you don't confuse it too much, and then outline where you benefit from in the future after you have been getting towards S/4HANA. One thing that we used in the past on ERP systems is what we call database migration option, DMO, of the software update manager. That was only dealing with exchanging the database on an ERP system. So from an NEDB to a HANA system, still on the ERP, but then using HANA as a database system. So that was maybe on vogue a couple of years back when customers were moving towards HANA as a database. But I think with the emergence of S/4HANA, this is not so important anymore. Here it's rather important how to get directly from the ERP system towards S/4HANA on the HANA database. And this is exactly the part I was outlining with downtime optimized conversion, which is using, of course, also parts of the downtime optimized DMO, so the database migration, because in most parts you have to convert the database and migrate to HANA. In some parts, if you are already on HANA, this is, of course, a downtime optimized conversion is also existing with the target to get to S/4HANA. And now comes the nice part, because if you are on S/4HANA, what we are building on is we also make the upgrade on the S/4HANA system much nicer and easier. So we ship here what we call the zero downtime option. So it's a lot of options. You will have all the details in the detailed call, so you don't have to remember all the abbreviations afterwards, right? It's just to give you this overview. But with the ZDO option, the zero downtime option, you will have significantly less downtime during regular S/4HANA maintenance. So getting from installing feature packs, support package stacks, or also version upgrades with ZDO, you are in a much, much better shape. And it comes down to downtimes of technical downtimes in the range of minutes, not hours anymore. That's why we call it zero downtime option. It's still some minutes, it's not zero, it's a bigger zero, as we sometimes call it, a big black zero, but it's way different to what you are familiar with the ERP world. So it's a nice product feature that the S/4HANA folks are enabling together with us, and it makes life much easier for administrators once they are on S/4HANA. So what is the zero downtime option about? In the standard approach, we are already optimizing with the shadow operation that did not change, and it's also available for all customers. We also have some advanced feature you can optionally switch on during the procedure, which we call NZDM. So you're moving some parts that normally are carried out in downtime to uptime here as well, but not as many as you could potentially do with the zero downtime option. So there, all the phases are running during uptime. So it's just essentially a restart of your application server in the end that you will be feeling as a downtime for your end users. It's currently available on request for pilot customers, and we have quite some pilot customers, I have to say. So this is running very nicely. And so with that, you are able to reduce the downtime a lot, but also to put the whole truth on the table. Of course, it comes with a little bit of more effort. I mean, if you want to keep your users working while you are maintaining your system, you have to take care a little bit. And of course, you need to test upfront whether while the system is undergoing maintenance, all your existing and running business processes are still working. So it's a little bit more test effort. You will see it also here in a second, how this behaves. So this is the idea. You're working on a release 1, and then we detour your end users to what we call a bridge release. So seamlessly, users are transferred to a second instance where we use the primary instance for the maintenance topic as well. So it's a little bit of more load on the system. It's a little bit of parallel work on the same database. This is why it's a little bit more effort to test. And then afterwards, after we concluded the maintenance, the users will be switching back via the system restart. This is the remaining downtime, and they will be working on the release 2. So that is pretty new stuff and working nicely, especially for this transition here from 1909 to 2020. But there's also other source releases we currently support. As said, we will have a dedicated session on this, but it's clearly a big benefit of customers that are already working on SAP S/4HANA, making maintenance a lot easier. And we think it's going to be enabling customers to maintain the system at a much higher speed than we used to have that in the ERP world, where those upgrades in the beginning I mentioned that were a pain. I think this is going to go away with that kind of technology, and you can keep your system up to date and way closer to the state of the art SAP is developing with this kind of maintenance procedures. Good. So we also have a customer quote here from Varian Medical Systems. They were really, really early on in the process and validating. So for them, it's clearly something they will use in the future. You don't have to read throughout it, but just to put also a customer quote here, I think it's already a year old, and we have way more customers of late doing and piloting the solution, and it's going to be way more. Good. Now that we have been talking about downtime extensively, there's also now a new service available for you that should help you a little bit with getting a feeling how much downtime a certain maintenance transaction might take on the one hand, and also I'm also very proud that we are developing in a direction that we also can maybe compare this if you would use a higher level maintenance procedure with more effort, but then also make it a little bit more transparent on what to expect if you would be able to use it. And this service is the downtime, the technical downtime optimization application. It's available already today on the service portal. And what does it do? First of all, it makes it much more easy to consume analytics. So some of you are most likely familiar with analytics informations you will get from the software update manager, for instance. It's the famous UPG ANA file that is created after each run that you can upload here. And you will get a graphical visualization on how long certain phases have been taking. And even better, we give you recommendations. You will see it in the demo a little bit. And as I said, there's also now a simulation mode available. So we always try to feed up-to-date knowledge into this tool. And then you will see also how much improvement you could actually derive on, let's say you're using downtime optimized conversion, for instance, instead of standard conversion. So that is very cool. The good thing also is it comes free of charge. So I can just urge you to use it. And in order to show it also, I will quickly jump into it. So here it's a downtime optimization. You can still see my screen, I hope. Otherwise, Svea, stop me.
Yes, of course. No, we can see it. Everything is okay.
Good, good. So here, this is an anonymized view of our production. Even so, see a lot of information already part of it. And I will now filter for a certain SID that we have prepared for this. So you see here a system conversion that we have here. I will click on it and analyze it. And here you see a little bit on what was already on the slide. There's a system here. It was in the beginning in ERP. Now it was converted to S/4HANA. You see also the release jump here, basis 740 to now 754. It was already from HANA to HANA. Okay, fair enough. And that's why you don't see this big database reduction. But what is more interesting here, you see the uptime it was running, and the downtime was really long, 2 days, 22 hours, so almost 3 days. That is quite a long time. So let's do a little bit deeper. You see here the software update manager took 1 day and 5 hours to run, whereas the finance conversion, as I said, which is currently happening outside of the software update manager, also took more than a day. So let's drill down a little bit on the details of the software update manager. Now focusing only on the conversion part here. That is exactly this downtime. You can analyze here, you click on it, and you see here already what was done. Yeah, so we used a current version, which is already good. Also which patch level, so you have some information. And you see also here a warning, yeah, because it took so long. imagine that would have been now a sandbox one, you would get a notification, for instance, yeah, this would probably not fit into a working shift anymore. So you need to do something about it. Yeah. But what could you potentially do? So let's drill down in one of the phases here. This is part of the inventory management, so MMIM migration part. One phase here is part of the software update manager that ran for almost 8 hours. Yeah. And here you see, when you click on it, you also get a recommendation on how to optimize performance. So you see the phase. This is the material head data, Materialkopfdaten in Germany. That's why it's called MKPF. So the header data that is transferred. And you see maybe the number of batch processes, if you would enhance them, it would probably be helpful, because this is highly having a big impact on the conversion time here. So you fill the MATDOC table in this particular phase. Yeah, so that is one example, which is quite new, I think, where we really use the UPG ANA information and also application. There's also application analytics by now available to make it a little bit more transparent for you as an end user or a system administrator or a partner to work with this data and make it a little bit more tangible, and also give recommendations on how to optimize. As I said, it's brand new. And the latest feature of it is the simulation feature. So coming back to this technical downtime here, 2 days, 22 hours, if you go to a simulation mode, you can say, okay, what do I want to do? I can check, can I reduce downtime if I use archiving? So if I reduce the size of my most used tables, or, and that is of course the thing I like to stress here, using downtime optimized conversion. So let me quickly start the simulation. And what you see here in the lower part, the technical downtime here was 2 days, right? And even if it's a conservative judgment, you could probably save 69%. Why is that much? Because the finance part that was running in a dedicated phase after the software conversion run is now being included into the uptime of the software update manager. And therefore you can, of course, save a lot of time. If you could look at the optimistic results, even would be 85%, yeah, that you can save. So it's really massive. And this is just the starting point. That is to give you a glimpse of what we will do over the course of time. We analyze the data from all the systems we have been in touch with. We upload it here and we work with it to give you much better estimations over time on what is possible and what not. And of course, the more data we get, the more accurate the services will get also in the long run. Good. So much for the TDO part. Technical downtime optimization, as said, already available on the Launchpad, the support Launchpad today. Good. Then I will jump back to the slides. I think I need to speed up a little bit.
Yes, we have 20 minutes left.
So maybe I will jump over one or the other topics more quickly. One thing after you have been moving to S/4HANA is to add now, as I said, line of business solutions, cloud solutions to your system with the cloud integration service, cloud integration automation service. What is this? It's also a service that is available via the maintenance planner. And what it does is, if you're in the maintenance planner, you plan a cloud scenario, it will actually guide you through the selection of the systems. So you see your own systems there, and you select which systems to integrate for a particular scenario. I will show it quickly in the maintenance planner in a second. And after you did this, what you will create out of it is a dedicated workflow, which will guide you through all the steps you require for your particular solution. So you're actually getting not only a documentation personalized to your needs, but also you have a chance to role-based and work with this workflow. So you are, for instance, your S/4HANA Cloud administrator will get certain tasks, your Cloud Platform Integration administrator will get certain tasks, and so forth. And all will be done personalized for your individual environment. So that's much better than having to read 1,000 pages of documentations of what could be done, because only the experts will get the tasks they need to carry out. not one size fits all, right? So big project, and I'm not kidding. I mean, those, especially those employee central integration project in the beginning, where if you collected all the documentations, you were easily over 1,000 pages of documentation. So that is much reduced now. And we also, of course, try to make most of the steps, or the steps that can be done, we will also automate, so you can actually just by button click execute certain steps for you, like copying integration package in your workspace and so forth. All the stuff that is available and you don't want to do manually, of course, and we can do as part of this workflow as well. Yeah, and there's a lot of benefits. I think I outlined them, but I would give you quickly a glimpse on how it looks like in real life. As I said, everything in software logistics starts with a maintenance planner, for at least for your hybrid worlds. Let's go back to there, if my system will let me. And here you see what I mentioned earlier, the plan for S/4HANA. So here you start your journey towards your system conversion, for instance, or a new system installation for S/4HANA. But then I said, you plan a cloud integration scenario. You can start this here as well. And going there, you see a lot of different integration solutions and scenarios that are available. I mentioned, for instance, the on-premise integration here for Employee Central with S/4HANA that is available. There's various kind of scenarios. You also see which entities are normally used to connect there. And depending on the scenario, it might be different ones. Yeah, for instance, here, if you set up the whole scenario, you also include here the cloud connector, for instance, all those components that are required to set this up. And if you want to run this for your system landscape, you click next and you see here those different entities. And as I said, all those entities are now filtered by systems that are relevant for this scenario when you went through them. So via this way, you're able to personalize documentation. You already set parameters, you personalize the documentation according to it. And you will also, of course, hand over the targets for any automation step as part of this automated workflow that we can carry out for you. So it's a nice way to reduce the complexity at the one hand, and another nice benefit of it is that you will really be doing a standardized way. So there's, as always, 10,000 ways how to integrate solutions, and depending on which consulting partner is carrying this out, that might look one or the other way. And with this will be the standardized way SAP is really recommending, making it easier for us to support you because everybody is using the standardized setup. And then for you, being sure that you are using what SAP is really recommending to make it the most secure and easy way to integrate. So that is a benefit also of the cloud integration automation service. And I think we leave it like this because we also have a dedicated session on that will be held by Stefan Jacobi as part of this call series. Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, I have posted the link to the blog post from Pretty here in the chat, so people can
perfect.
directly click on that and see all the series which we are providing the next weeks.
That is great, Svea. Thanks a lot. Yeah, and this is a good step also to the next part, the transport and hybrid landscapes as one of the things you normally do, of course, in these landscapes. So how does it look like? And as said, there's a lot of things as part of DevOps paradigms today. Yeah, you're talking about continuous integration, for instance, a lot, which is, I think, very familiar to everybody who is developing already today in the cloud and also might be developing outside of ABAP, but might not be so familiar for typical ABAP development environments we see in our on-prem installed base, right? But there we also get there, right? And we also get to this distributed development environment over time, and we also want to get to a branch-based development. So this sounds, as said, a little bit awkward for those who are really familiar with the old school ABAP development in a central system, like we used to have it in the past. But now we are starting to combine best of both worlds. So we really want to use the well-known correction and transport system, which is, of course, one of the major strengths SAP is offering in terms of supportability, because everything is really nice and audible, and you can reproduce every state, and you're really confident if you use the correction and transport system. Yeah. But what we do is we combine it now with a Git-enabled approach. And what does that mean? With the Git-enabled CTS, which is now available since 1909 in the on-prem world, and it's also part of the Steampunk, the ABAP cloud solution. It's the first time we are really capable of writing the ABAP code outside and persisting it outside of an ABAP development system. And of course, if you start to think about it, what does that mean? It opens a lot of different options, and we may be much better off integrating it into the standard DevOps processes you're using in other development environments as well for other solutions. So this is now also available for the AS ABAP since 1909, and we are continuously improving it. And as said, there is going to be a dedicated session also as well. Now, moving ahead, of course, you also want to transport in the cloud. Therefore, we have this transport management service as one of multiple services, of course, we're offering in that area. And here we are more or less bringing the same paradigm or similar paradigm that we have on premise also to the cloud world. So you can also transport development artifacts or application content from your development account to a test account, to a production account, like you are used to do on premise. So that is quite nice, because it will also preserve the qualities you are seeing there, and you don't have to learn like a complete new paradigm, or like I saw it in the beginning in the cloud and world, where customers were maintaining big Excel sheets and so forth. Yeah, so that's now really also a nice way to use transport as part of cloud solutions on cloud platform. Now, what does that mean for hybrid? Because this is our focus topic here, hybrid. In your data center, you're using CTS, the correction and transport system, or CTS Plus or GCTS, yeah, like before. With CTS Plus, if you're using it, you could even integrate parts of development artifacts on the cloud platform, which is nice. But I think what makes it really nice and charming, it's a nice word game, you will see in a second, using transport management for the cloud artifacts. First, it's not only the MTAs, but it's also the application artifacts. And what we also built for transport management here is the integration with Charm. And this is a higher level service available in the Solution Manager. Most of the bigger on-prem customers are familiar with that. The change and release management and quality gate management functionality of SAP Solution Manager. And you are, with the transport management, now able to combine this also. And for this, I want to roll a quick video, 5 minutes. I know it's a little bit long, but I think it's really worthwhile watching, because it's showing a little bit how this works together. So bear with us a little bit.
Platform transport management with SAP Solution Manager change request management. For that, we have created in the transport management landscape, which is managed by Solution Manager. You can see this in the configuration of the different transport nodes. For example, here in the node till test, that in the configuration, the flag controlled by SAP Solution Manager is switched on. If this is the case, the Solution Manager system triggers the transports or the imports into this node. I can show you this in the queue of this node. So I go to the queue, and here we have a transport request, which is called Demo SAP Community Call. I can select this one and now try to import this directly from transport management. So I confirm, and now I get the message that it's not possible to import directly this transport request because this node is controlled by Solution Manager. Okay, let's switch to the Solution Manager side. Here I have created a landscape in which the transport management system is part of. This is the landscape. Here we have the transport management side of the house with the 3 systems TGD, TGT, and TGP. And we have, for demonstration purposes as well, an S/4HANA on-premise system with 3 systems here, S2D, S2Q, and S2P. And these 3 systems are bound together in one landscape. The landscape is called TMS Test Harald. And this landscape has now been used inside change cycle. This change cycle here, demo SAP Community Call. You see this cycle is using the TMS Test Harald landscape. And now in this change document, I have already added a few transport requests on the ABAP side, so that in the ABAP system, in the S2D system, now developers could work and do workbench or customizing changes. They would be recorded into these transport requests and would now be transported when we now would release this change document. This is known functionality from change request management. If I now look into the transport management side, the cloud side of the transports, I have now the new functionality here to assign transport requests from transport management to this change document. I will do that. Now I can search for transport requests, which are should be part of this change document. And we see here CS1 change one transport request, this demo community call transport. I will select this one and assign it to my change document. And now it has become part of the change document, and it's also controlled now by this change document. And if I now switch this change document from the status in development to the status to be tested, so I will do that. Then this triggers the transports as well on the ABAP side and also at the same time on the transport management cloud transport side. Now this status has changed to be tested. And if I go down now to my list of transports, we see that the transport management transport has now been imported in the cloud side. The other 2 have been deleted because they were empty, but normally, of course, they would be transported as well.
I think we leave it like this with a video. What I really wanted to show you is how those technologies come together. So the well-proven CTS in the on-premise world, and also the charm QBM functionality of Solution Manager, now spanning also hybrid scenarios via the transport management service in the cloud. So you will not lose any of the more sophisticated controls in your landscape when moving to cloud. I think that's very important for us and also important for the future if you operate these kind of hybrid landscapes. So switching back to the slides. We saw how this is working. And of course, there's a lot more. It's not only transport, right? There's a lot more processes and services available by the overall DevOps portfolio from SAP. So in almost all of these topics, we see a lot of development currently, and we're extending this. And yeah, we see the world is hybrid in the future, so we need to make it also easier for the development ops teams to operate these kind of solutions. And we talked intensely about the way of the transport management, but what is a generic kind of way to move? I mean, normally this will not be a big bang approach going into the cloud, but you can extend your system step by step into the cloud. So for most customers we see today, the gravity is really around their existing on-prem databases. So you may run a solution, or you most likely will run a solution manager. You have your on-premise systems that will be converted over time to S4, and then you extend it by the others. And then you also, of course, use those services around not only transportation management, but other services like alert notification, automation pilot, to also make it easier to run and operate the cloud scenarios in parallel and run these integrated business processes throughout the cloud and on-premise environments. Good. And with it, finally, I'm through. So it was really fast. Some takeaways I really would like to keep you away to take away from that is the maintenance planner is really the starting point for most of the stuff we are doing in this hybrid world. So most of the stuff you can start there. You can start planning installations, conversions, cloud integrations. You can visualize the hybrid landscapes there. So all the stuff that you need to get going is there. In the end, if you look at the IES story of SAP, everything is tailored around S/4HANA. So you do have to move there, be it on-premise, be it in the cloud, be it via a conversion or any other method. But in the end, it's around S/4HANA where we will build our integrations first on. And these come also with great new lifecycle management options. I mentioned zero downtime maintenance as one, and also the Git-enabled CTS, which is coming also with the new basis releases. And last but not least, there's a lot of services, transport management being one of them, available to make life much easier in the DevOps world for your operators. And with this, yeah, it's a little bit longer than I thought. A lot of material surrounding. Svea also posted the blog with the other sessions, but maybe we have at least 1 or 2 questions that we can still take. Svea, I apologize for the long presentation.
No problem.
For bearing with me for this.
No problem, Volker. And I would say you did a great job because we have no question. So it seems that you already explained everything so well that no one is going to ask a question. And as you also mentioned, I have pasted here some links in the chat, so you can just review the chat now and click on the links, follow Volker, follow Marcos in the SAP community, or have a look into the topic pages here, and also the link to Preeti's blog post. And still no one wants to speak up. So actually you have finished 2 minutes earlier.
I hope I did not scare anybody.
No, I hope so too, but I don't think so. It was a great call. A big thank you from my side, and the recording as well as the presentation as a PDF file will be available soon on our SAP Community Calls page. And yeah, I can only say have a nice day, the rest of the day, or wherever you are based. Good evening, and I hope we see each other in one of the next community calls in this series. So thanks again, and bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.